Welcome to this explainer on an absolutely critical domain for any internal auditor, ethics and professionalism. Today, we're diving straight into instructor Same Herakli's breakdown of Study Unit 5. We're going to unpack the strict expectations that basically form the absolute bedrock of trust in your work. Let's get right into it.
Now, you might be wondering why we're hitting this so hard. While you absolutely must master this material. Not only does it instill vital trust in the profession, which is crucial, but it actually makes up a massive 20% of the Part 1 Certified Internal Auditor exam syllabus. I mean, you literally cannot succeed without a rock-solid grasp of this domain.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with a quick introduction, and then we're going to explore the 5 core pillars of ethical behavior: integrity, objectivity, competency, due professional care, and confidentiality.
All right, starting off with Section 1, Introduction, where we'll focus on responsibility.
Moving right along to Section 2, 5.1, Integrity, which is our core pillar.
To really get what responsibility means here, you have to understand that every internal auditor is individually on the hook for conforming to these standards. Even if you're bound by other codes at the same time, this is on you. And integrity? That's your foundation. Standard 1.1 is all about absolute honesty and professional courage. You must disclose all material facts so people can make informed decisions, and courage means you have to act on those facts, even when it's incredibly difficult. Crucially, the Chief Audit Executive has to have your back here. They need to maintain an environment that supports you when you bring legitimate evidence-based results to the table, even if management absolutely hates hearing them.
This flows right into the organization's ethical expectations under Standard 1.2. It's not just about quietly following the rules. You have to actively champion an ethics-based culture. When you're putting together your audit plan, you've got to assess ethics-related risks, figuring out communication criteria, and how to actually resolve issues. And if there are inconsistencies, the reporting structure is super strict. The CAE has to report any senior management violations straight to the board. And if the board chair is the one involved, well, the CAE takes that violation to the entire board, no exceptions.
So what does breaking those rules actually look like? Standard 1.3 lists the discreditable acts you need to avoid like the plague. We're talking obvious interpersonal violations like bullying or harassment, all the way up to severe professional misconduct. Issuing false reports, intentionally hiding findings, or, get this, lying about having a certification you never actually earned. Even just looking the other way on illegal activities or refusing to own up to your mistakes will permanently tank your reputation and hurt the whole profession.
Let's dive into Section 3, 5.2, Objectivity, which requires an incredibly independent mindset.
If integrity is your bedrock, objectivity is the structural pillar holding everything up. The IIA glossary defines it as this perfectly unbiased mental attitude. It's what allows you to make professional judgments completely free from compromise or any outside influence. You simply cannot subordinate your judgment to anyone else, ever.
But keeping that unbiased attitude, that takes real active work. Under Standard 2.1, you're required to remain neutral and actively fight off specific cognitive threats. You have to watch out for self-review bias. When you just lack a critical perspective on your own prior work. Then there's familiarity bias, where past experiences sort of trick you into making lazy assumptions that ruin your professional skepticism. And of course, you absolutely must combat unconscious prejudice, which can warp how you interpret things based on predisposed ideas about culture, race, ideology, or gender.
So how do we actually protect this in the real world? Standard 2.2 helps us separate acceptable actions from true impairments. Say you're recommending control standards for systems, or maybe reviewing procedures before they go live. Totally fine. Those are non-impairments. But if you're auditing a department you literally ran within the last 12 months, or if you're drafting the IT procedures yourself or accepting gifts, yeah, you've got a severe impairment and a massive conflict of interest on your hands.
But wait. What happens if a huge impairment is discovered after an engagement is already finished, completely blowing up confidence in your findings? Well, Standard 2.3 gives us a clear playbook. The CAE has to jump into action with 2 steps. First, get in a room and discuss the issue with all the affected parties: management, the board, senior leadership, whoever it impacts. Second, figure out a concrete, actionable way to actually solve the problem.
All right, on to Section 4, 5.3, Competency, focusing entirely on your knowledge and skills.
Competency, outlined in Standard 3.1, essentially means you only provide services when you actually have the skills to back them up. And let's be honest, today's required skill set is huge.
We aren't just talking about traditional auditing anymore. You need a deep understanding of governance, core business operations in finance and IT, and you have to be able to proactively sniff out fraud. Add to that, mastering data analysis tools, spotting external economic or political risks, and maintaining really high-level communication and teamwork skills. Because the business landscape shifts so incredibly fast, keeping those skills sharp is mandatory under Standard 3.2. Practicing certified internal auditors have to knock out 40 hours of continuing professional education every single year, while non-practicing CIAs need 20. But check out the common denominator here. Regardless of your status, you are strictly required to complete at least 2 hours of dedicated ethics training annually. Period.
Next up is Section 5, 5.4, Due Professional Care.
This is really about executing your work with meticulous attention to detail and sound judgment. Standard 4.1 says you have to organize all your services based on the global internal audit standards. But what if local laws actually block you from applying certain rules? Well, you still have to comply with everything else, and the CAE must thoroughly document the limitations and what alternative steps were taken. Interestingly, if the standards ever clash with rules from another authoritative body, you're always supposed to conform to whichever requirement is the most strict.
Actually exercising due care under Standard 4.2 means you are constantly evaluating the big picture. You have to weigh the complexity and materiality of risks against the organization's overarching goals. You also need to do a harsh cost-benefit analysis of your own work. Think about it. If a system is just fundamentally broken, spending massive amounts of time and resources to audit it might not actually provide the best value to the organization.
And a true cornerstone of due care is Standard 4.3, professional skepticism. Your actions have to be guided by hard logic and evidence, not just trust. If you come across information that seems incomplete, inconsistent, or just downright misleading, you can't just take management's word for it. You have to dig deeper, do further analysis, and find concrete proof. And if you're dealing with conflicting info, you have a duty to speak up clearly and truthfully to express those concerns.
Finally, we reach Section 6, 5.5, confidentiality and protecting data.
Look, as an internal auditor, you carry immense professional responsibility because you basically have unrestricted access to an organization's most sensitive proprietary data. Under Standard 5.1, you have to follow strict policies covering the entire life cycle of that data, collecting it, transferring it, storing it, and eventually throwing it away securely using tools like encryption. Most importantly, you are absolutely forbidden from using this knowledge for personal gain. That means absolutely no using insider information to make your own stock market plays.
Protecting this information under Standard 5.2 also means you have to be hyper-aware of accidental leaks. You've got to be really careful about your social media, and you need to tightly control who physically walks into your work area. Before any business info is ever released externally, the CAE must consult legal counsel to navigate attorney-client privileges. And when a project wraps up, you must immediately revoke digital permissions and securely shred any printed materials.
So, we've laid it all out, the 5 pillars: integrity, objectivity, competency, due professional care, and confidentiality. The ultimate question now rests entirely on your shoulders. As an internal auditor, are you ready to let these strict ethical standards flawlessly guide your every move? Or will you cut corners and risk fracturing the very foundation of trust that makes your entire profession possible? It's a critical choice, and it's one you have to make every single time you show up to work.